Start this meeting to order. First item, approval of minutes. My colleagues approved any changes. Perfect. Item number 3, consent items. Right. We'll go into item 4A, resolution for cadet pilot program.
All right, well, I'll start. Chief Acevedo was wanting to do an intro. He should be here shortly, so we'll let him catch up once he's here.
I need to pull up the presentation.
Hey, fair warning, Councilmember Jurinsky's moving fast this morning, so you guys better keep up. She will leave you in the dust, folks. Oh, here we go. I tap dance long enough for you. Come on. He's been serenading us on the way over.
Ask him, I have a protected class at my age. It's raining.
You would have thought.
Oh, you got 15 minutes for this slot, so.
Oh, we're first?
You're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefing of defense.
Right?
Yeah. We had a briefing of defense.
5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late, so let's go.
Watch this. Well, good morning. I think we all know who's here, but I just wanted to open it up real quick and just say that this program we're about to present is really important to us. One of the challenges I think we have as a department, we have a great department, but our city has changed so much in terms of population, in terms of diversity, and I don't think we've really evolved in terms of our way we recruit. And I think that this program that we're hoping to launch here soon is going to give us an opportunity to reach out to segments of our community we probably haven't reached out to effectively in the past. And the community college I'm a product of as an immigrant and the graduate of a community college is a rich environment for great candidates. So I look forward to the discussion. I really appreciate Chief Jules and Reagan and everybody that works so quickly. Obviously, our partners, our soon-to-be partner at the Community College of Aurora, which I think will be it's an organization on the move, and so are we. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Jules and our team.
Thanks, Chief, for that.
And Bobby, do you know the testimony that we met? This is Bobby Case from CCA.
We've met and we were just seeing each other Monday, so.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so
Next slide.
to the chief's point, we really are looking at new and better ways to hire and recruit. And this is an idea where we can actually get our youth coming out of high school that may have some interest in law enforcement to get exposed to it and have an opportunity to start a career and get an idea what that's going to look like early on. It gives them an opportunity to earn their associate's degree at no cost to them, assuming they maintain the standards of the program. And they also get exposure to the police department. So in addition to going to the CCA classes, they'll have exposure on a regular basis to the police department, to training, to opportunities for volunteer work within, like for instance, like a global fest, things like that, to where they can actually come in and interact with not just the organization, but the community as well, and get that exposure and learn that this is a career service to the community. And it also gives just us a great opportunity to recruit these folks and get them interested a little bit earlier than we otherwise would be able to. So with that, I'll stop. I know we have limited time, so I'll turn it over to Reagan to talk about the next piece.
So we have a number of goals. Some of them are measurable. We want to make sure, obviously, we can measure how many cadets come in. Essentially, it's going to be, the goal is 20 new ones a year. And so at full capacity, we'll have 40. So we'll be able to measure how many cadets are coming in, how many are earning their associate's degree, as well as how many actually make the conversion to becoming a police officer or a City of Aurora employee. But every goal that we have, some of our goals are aspirational as well, but every goal that we have is really very Aurora focused. We are very intentional by partnering with Community College of Aurora because they already have established inroads to all of our public schools in the local area. They have over 5,500 concurrently enrolled students. And so we just think that that's a really incredible avenue for us to explore for our recruitment opportunities. We've heard from the community that they want to see themselves reflected in our police department. And so what better way than to work with our local schools? And those would include things like Councilmember Jurinsky Future Forward schools that community college is already a part of Aurora is already a part of and already has established public safety programs in.
It's actually a site for us. We have such a robust program there that it is literally another campus for us.
Yeah.
Which is
Are you
great.
talking about the Washington Station?
Well, it's no more, but yes, it's called Future Forwards
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, they changed their,
location?
that location, but we actually have 13 different branch campus locations in K-12 school, well, high schools, but within the K-12 area all throughout Aurora and then Cherry Creek School District and up north as well.
So is Aurora focused not only in partnering with our like local educational institutions, both the higher education as well as our high schools, but it's also really a focused opportunity for students that are local students to have a higher education, paid for, debt-free, and then to go on and serve in the community that they were raised in or are already invested in. It's another opportunity as well for investors because local businesses obviously have an investment in the safety of our community, and they can help us to build capacity to meet the needs of our community. And what we're going to be asking of them is essentially to fund the sponsorship of the education. So they can contribute in that way. And then, as Chief Jewell explained, it's an investment that APD has in the community because we want to build rapport and relationship and sort of decrease the mentality of us versus them. And we think that regardless of whether they go on to serve a 20-year career with the police department or the city of Aurora, they'll leave the program with a better understanding that public safety is everyone's responsibility and some of the challenges that we face. Next slide.
So Bobby and I are going to share this one a little bit. I'll just, there's some requirements. I'll talk generally as far as what the police requirements are, and Bobby will talk a little bit about the other side with regard to the academics, but they'll need to be 18 years old. Colorado Post has certain requirements with regard to no felony convictions, right? Certain misdemeanors are disqualifiers, so they're going to make sure they can work with all that, and that they're also legally able to be employed in the United States. There will be a background done prior to their admission into the program, so we make sure that we are getting the best people and that they already don't have any of the character flaws we wouldn't want anyway. And we'll have a code of conduct that they'll have to conform with as well. So with that, I'll let Bobby talk a little bit about the academic side of it.
And just to be clear, there's multiple codes of conduct here because there's a student code of conduct that we handle, and then it's going to be the official code of conduct that will be there for the program itself with the police department. We have this idea of no more than 12 credit hours of prior college credit earned, and the reason for that is because of the robustness of our concurrent enrollment programming. We know that a lot of our students are actually taking high school classes, or excuse me, college classes within their high school programs, things like English, things like history, math, that kind of thing, because this is open to every associate's degree. This isn't limited to any particular associate's degree. In fact, the idea is we may have folks who want to go into, communications within the police department or economics and accounting, those kinds of things. We want to have it as broad as possible because the most kind of way that we can really have a robust police force is also to ensure that folks have a background that's diverse in terms of the topics that they've covered. And so we want to make sure that we aren't excluding concurrent enrollment students from having the possibility of participating. So that's why we're saying 12 credit hours. We'll talk just a minute in another slide about some of the core actual common courses that we're hoping that APD and CCA, we're gonna kind of team build a bit on that and develop these courses to have a cohort-based model so that students are exposed to classes that really have an emphasis on Aurora as they move forward. 2.5 GPA, they've got to earn 15 credit hours per semester. That way they get through the program in 2 years. And then obviously there's going to be civic engagement is a very heavily emphasized portion of this program. And so completing those program hours and community engagement opportunities is going to be key as well. You can start. So just very quickly here, in terms of that school to employment pipeline, you're going to see, again, any degree focus. The core cadet courses are actually listed on the right-hand side. For those of you that can't see, those are American, state, and local. I think, quite frankly, if you're going to serve a city enterprise, it really should be something where you understand what city government is all about and the breadth of what a city council model might look like, a strong mayoral system, all of those things, that you really have an understanding of that, and that you understand that second course, contemporary political issues, The great thing about this course is that this course is one that we can make it thematic for whatever the city is dealing with or whatever the APD is dealing with at that time. That's really about the policy making process and how folks navigate through it. We have intercultural communication as a way for folks to be able to really communicate with a diverse a range of individuals that might be there, communicating with impossible people. None of us know them, but just in case we do, it'd be nice to know how you engage with them, particularly in tense situations. And then negotiation, again, another kind of core value and piece that we thought from an educational standpoint, these five make up the core set of courses that the cadets will go through in tandem. So these essentially will act as electives for students, but they will go through in tandem regardless of what the degree is. Next.
Actually, just real quick, and what Bobby has said to us is that these are our initial required electives, but that CCA is actually willing to create courses if we assess and say this would actually be something that's really advantageous for our cadets to have, that they would create specialized for us.
In terms of in-kind benefits, just gonna go through this very, very quickly here. We're gonna have 24/7 cadet tutoring online, first responder focused mental health workshops in partnership with our EMS programming. So there's things we're already doing. I feel like I'm somebody at an auctioneer at this point, right? Like trying to go. Yeah, exactly. So we're good. We're gonna have dedicated cadet graduation stashes. So we'll make sure that they're really prioritized there. Face-to-face tutoring, 6 days a week. Cadet focused peer mentorship program. We're going to do the marketing piece, at least on our end. And of course, we are obviously hoping that that we'll be in strong partnership. We know we will with the city. We're looking at utilizing prior learning assessments. We're going to really focus on financial literacy and all those life skills that are going to be necessary for folks as they enter through. And then really do an outreach and recruitment targeted campaign with geofencing and the like. So those are pretty exciting things. We estimate our benefit of the cost here is going to be about $71,760 annually that we're going to take care of on our end. Next. So this just kind of shows you tuition costs. So this is what we are fundraising for, and we're securing our donors for. It'll cost about $782,000 because that is comprehensive for ultimately what we're going to see is 100 folks that are going to go through this, completing their degree after 2 years, all books, all tuition, all fees, everything inclusive in that. And that is not something we're asking the city for, just to clarify. That's just numbers so you can see what we're working with. Next slide.
So in addition to if they're earning the associate's degree, we obviously throughout the 2 years want to build a relationship and a rapport with the cadets. And so, police are not separate from community. They're very much a part of community. And Chief Acevedo's focus on relational policing, with his focus on that and the idea that every engagement opportunity we have is an opportunity to build trust and relationship. We want to, from the very onset of this program, say to cadets, you are public servants, community matters. And so we want to get a lot of repetitions in throughout the 2 years, not only with our team, but with our community. So we also want to recognize that a lot of community college students have to work full time. Some of these people are going to be taking not only full course load, working full time, and some of them might have families. And so we've tried to not make it burdensome, the engagement with us burdensome, so they can, fulfill their duties outside of their cohort commitments. So 1 full week for each year, they're going to give us volunteer hours with our community outreach. So it'll give time with staff as well as face time with our community and really get to understand how to talk to people. In addition, Community College of Aurora does not hold classes on Friday. We are going to require, these are just minimums, but a minimum of 8-hour program hours a month, where they'll come in and do things like ride along, observations, training that might be helpful to their post-certification, as well as an opportunity to maybe do some administrative functions to help them understand some of the internal operations of the police department. Next.
So Bobby talked a little bit about the cost of tuition. So there is some cost to the city as well. So this demonstrates what 3 years worth of basic uniforms are going to look like. We'll get them pants and shirts so they look uniform when they come here or when they're out with the community doing some of the events that they're easily recognizable. So over the 3 years for all those the 100 folks that would be in these cohorts, it's about $18,000 in cost for the uniforms. And then next slide, please. And then there is some significant administrative management to this program. So we are asking for a couple of FTEs to help manage this. One is the program manager itself, because there is recruiting to do, there's marketing to do, there's a lot of things that have to happen behind the scenes to generate the logistics of this program to keep it on track. So we would like a cadet program manager starting at year one. So starting in the spring or January of 24, and then 1 year past that, we were asking for an administrative specialist then to help manage the logistics of the program for years 2 and 3. So that total cost, in addition with the uniform cost, is right around $500,000, $513,000 or so over the first 3 years. Next slide.
And so these are our next steps. Obviously, we're here to seek your approval and go through that process. We asked at Civil Service Committee this week, we asked them to consider adding preference points to our cadets, because why invest all this time and energy if they're not going to get some sort of special treatment to become a police officer with the city of Aurora. Then once approved, we would obviously start our investor campaign and do the recruiting and marketing in the fall, and then start the pilot program. There would obviously be ongoing evaluation and tweaks. That's why we wanted to start it with a pilot program, but we have every intention to make it successful and fully adopt the program permanently. Do you all have any questions?
I have a question. Is there gonna be any guarantee, just like you said, why would we invest all of this time and effort? So is there a guarantee, like, we'll put you through this program, you're gonna do this 3-year program, and we're gonna pay for your uniforms, we're gonna pay for all this stuff and invest in you, you now owe APD a minimum of X amount of time?
We're asking for 3 years. So, and part of this would be, so we recognize that at 18 years old, you know, they could graduate potentially at 20, right? Not quite old enough yet to start an academy. So we would look at a pre-hire program to kind of keep them engaged within the city in some fashion, maybe in the police department, could be anywhere potentially. And then we'll have to look at what, I would like to have a specific academy for this group of people. So they come through an academy together. It may even be able to be abbreviated because they would have accomplished all the classes during that 2 years that they're going to CCA and volunteering some of their time with us. But yes, then beyond that, academy completion, then we would ask for that. So now we're looking at about a year's passive employment with the city, then another 2 years at a minimum with the organization after that.
We're also doing a similar thing with the tuition, right? So the tuition's gonna be covered, but that needs to have a guarantee with it as well. And so as we're talking about what the sort of the contract looks like with the students, there is a payback. And so if you do not complete the program, you drop out, you fail to maintain one of the code of conduct standards either by the city or from the academic standpoint, then you will have to pay back the college, which is it's 503C with our foundation. They'll be the fiscal holders for that piece, so that there will be multiple points of responsibility that the students recognize, and that will hold them accountable both through our piece and then the transition in the city and the investment for the long term there.
Okay.
Scholarship.
It's essentially, I like to think of it as public loan forgiveness in some ways, right? Because really the idea is you do this, then you work this many years with the organization that you've invested in, and then we close that chapter, right? And you are not responsible for it. You fail to meet those obligations, and then you become responsible for those. So that's why I sort of say that public loan forgiveness is probably the most equivalent model.
Yes.
And that seems to be a model that others are using across the country.
But just to add to that, we recognize that there's just in our own hiring process, that there's a number of these people who won't become cops. And so part of this is they can give service to the city as a full-time City of Aurora employee, which also still benefits our community and serves the needs. And so that's another reason why we also said you can do any career track, because having a criminal justice degree does not necessarily make you a better cop. So hopefully that answers your question.
Is that also gonna be, I mean, they can have a job anywhere in the city, but I would like for it to be in public safety. So whether that's records or whether that's dispatch or whether, I mean, I'd like to not put them through a criminal justice program and then put them in pros.
Would you consider letting them work in our detention center during that gap year?
Well, that would be great. And I think you and I talked about that program up north at high school we're gonna go visit, starting them to not lose these people until they're 21 and can be like starting in detention at 18 in our jail. I think that would be great to keep them in the scope of public safety, not just allow them to be anywhere in the city.
Public safety is pretty broad, which is great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options.
Yeah,
I think that we
absolutely.
can find something for them to stay in public safety.
Even fire, so if they were 20.
They don't have.
We're moonlighting firefighters. Coming soon, so that's all.
Hey, I have all public safety, so I gotta be nice to fire too, all right? So.
Thanks for the shout out.
And I hope we get to grow it as, so you think about a total of 40 people, and we're asking for a $500,000 investment. That's a lot of money per body, but that's just to get it going. And my hope is that we can grow the program to more than 20. We just want to do 20 and 20 to work the kinks out and try to establish the program, but then hopefully we'll be able to grow it. Because, $500,000 for 40 bodies is, that's necessary.
Technically, Chief, it'll be 100.
Right.
If we fill all the spots for
right,
the
right.
entire 3 years.
Because there's still, you've got it for 2 years, so it's 20 new ones every single year, and then you've got the other 20 that are the legacy folks that are finishing that year. So after year 1, we'll have 40 students concurrently going through the program, starting, ending. And the nice thing about that too is that provides a good feeder of recruits, right? So it's not just all these students in a lump sum, it's moving them through, so there's a continuous pipeline.
So as your former budget guy, it's really $200,000 a year on the city that you're looking to commit in terms of the staff and some of the other stuff. There's probably a lot of also in-kind support in terms of the ride-alongs, in terms of everything else that the city's doing. So we'll market that with CCA as we go out, because the funders that they're looking for to help them with that tuition piece are going to be looking at the city, stepping up. And so that commitment really is about $200,000 a year. The reason the PD presented that 500,000 is, as Reagan said, we're calling it a pilot to start with. So we don't want to kind of do a, bait and switch and say, well, so it's $200,000 a year, but we really want to commit to this for at least 3 years. So it's at $500,000. So we're committing to about a $500,000 pilot. And it is successful, and it's going to be successful because we're going to make it successful. It's about $200,000 a year ongoing, but I think it's going to be a great program.
Are we going to try and privately fundraise? I mean, CCA has a nonprofit. I think, we have a network too that we can probably get private funds for this program.
That's exactly what we're doing. In fact, we've been in conversations with, and we'll be meeting with a number of people actually relatively quickly, but we have been working with some folks who have given us commitments for covering pilot startup cost. And so the nice thing is, from our perspective with the tuition, that's an ongoing rolling basis. And so we don't need that 700,000 as a lump sum, right? If we're able to raise 250,000 this particular year, we've just covered, actually 125,000 covers that first cohort class, right? And so as we go forward, this is an ongoing piece, but yeah, we feel very confident about our fundraising piece.
So I assume that all the tuition is through the 501c3, the foundation,
Mhm.
they pay for it. On our side, couldn't we raise money through our foundation to cover not maybe the FTE, but the uniforms or whatever? Because that's a pretty small number. I mean, it's not insignificant. For $18,000 a year, it seemed like we went out and concurrently with them said, hey, we're going to raise into our foundation to cover some of those hard costs, if you will, to get that off of the taxpayers' books, and then we have to cover the tuition. I assume we can do that.
Yeah, we absolutely can.
Which foundation are you referring to?
So the police foundation
Oh,
for
police
the,
foundation.
for the stuff that
Naomi?
they need, I don't know.
Yeah.
So that whatever foundation we need to raise for their uniforms or whatever, and then CCA obviously for the tuition costs.
Yeah, and we've talked to some foundations that want to make sure, they want the city to show that we have skin in the game, that we're committed to it. And I think once we demonstrate that, council member, moving forward, I really believe once we establish the program, we're going to see people, especially with crime being an issue in Colorado.
So you need direction from us to move this forward?
Yes.
This is more of just, that you guys are gonna see this. Obviously, there's a budget ask for this, and so we're gonna let you all know that we're having these discussions. You'll see a budget ask for this, and we're gonna keep moving forward.
There actually is a resolution in the.
Okay.
The backup, we added that late, so there is a resolution, so we'd ask for a vote on the resolution.
Yeah. Move forward. Perfect, thank you guys. All right, ordinance amending harassment.
I'll just go ahead and present this. Megan Platt with the City Attorney's Office. There was a Supreme Court decision back in March of 2022 regarding the Colorado revised statutes, harassment code section. The Supreme Court had ruled that a portion of that was unconstitutional, and in violation of the First Amendment. The language intended to harass in that subsection. Our city code in 94-42-4 mirrored that language. This is just a simple amendment to strike the language that the Supreme Court had declared to be overbroad in a violation of the First Amendment, and it's just stricken now in our ordinance. So pretty straightforward. Just asking to move the changes forward.
Yep. All right, public safety action plan update.
We will move through this quickly. So section 1 is the crime reduction plan. You've got the staffing numbers in there. You have the academy class dates in there. You have the training update.
Are we able to pull it up?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Give us a second.
Just a second. This first section just shows you our staffing by different areas, including our special operations command. So we'll kind of scroll through that, see if there's any questions on that.
So, yeah, one question. Maybe I, comparing it to last year, I know we talked about vacancies, just where we were with vacancies a year ago versus now.
Did you guys put that here? Or did you put it in the vacancy thing up top?
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm still working on trying to figure out how to do that because we didn't have this data last year. John is working at how we're gonna try to transfer that. We'll have it next month. We're just still trying to work on how we're comparing apples to apples. Got it. But I'll have it next month for you. John believes he has a way to try to figure out where we were at last year with some of these units.
So got to keep scrolling on that. So that's our staffing numbers, and then getting down into the academy stats, you kind of see where we're at on those. Chief Jewel, anything down on those on that front?
Just the lateral academy we started on Monday was to have 10 in it. 8 started. We had 2 withdrawals within the 3 days before the academy started for Madison. That's the only change.
And then the training is the next section. You'll kind of see the training that's been done there. Any questions on training? All right. So now we'll go on to section 2, which is the data. This continues to remain a good news story. Crime is still way too high, but the numbers are continuing to trend in the right direction. So both for the previous 4-week period and through the first 4 months of the year, crime is down across the board with the exception of burglaries. Is that right, Chief?
Yes.
Okay. So that you should see the numbers there. Good trending, continuing through the first third of the year, and actions on the crime numbers. Okay. Section 3 is our youth violence. So Joseph, we'll let you take that. Any updates?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. Just a few high-level updates. Case management services has been approved. Thank you all for Monday for the approval. So we're moving forward with professional services agreement, getting that in place, as we are continuing to see a lot of referrals coming in from our SROs, APD and community partners. So I think that's going to really help with those individualized services. We've got a few events coming up starting in May and kind of throughout the summer. So we'll keep you all updated on those and be sharing that with all of council and the rest of the community. So exciting there. Monday, I'll be presenting the recommendations for NOFO from the committee this year. So I will be a study session for that on Monday. So we'll dive into that. I won't get into the details here since we will be doing that on Monday. And then our focus deterrence work is moving along quickly. We're in the process of establishing our governing board, and that will be moving forward quickly as well.
So real quick, of the 30
Yes.
some applicants that you got for this funding,
Yes.
staff has agreed to bring to us 7 for intervention and 12 for prevention. That's what
Correct.
you guys narrowed it down to?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had 35 applications and we narrowed it down based on the scoring and all of that, which we'll go over the scoring a little bit more in detail on Monday.
Okay,
But we narrowed it down to the 7 for intervention and 12 for prevention.
okay.
Yes, yep. That's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
May I, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I just want to thank, I'm talking about juvenile crime, I want to thank the council for taking an opposed position to House Bill 1249 that would have lowered the age by which we can actually charge some of these youthful offenders for to basically 10. We couldn't charge anyone under the age of 13 with anything other than murder. So if I shot you 13 times and somehow you lived, you can't be charged with the crime. And I just wanted to say thank you for taking that position and the mayor for going to the press conference we held. If it wasn't for the city, I think that bill would pass, so thank you.
That's awesome.
In its original form, which would have been what I just talked about.
Well, and Chief, thank you for your work on that. I mean, I don't think Aurora's ever had an advocate like what you did down at the state capitol for 2 days. And it might single-handedly be because of you that we were able to fight that off.
Section 4 is our crisis response team. So I see him sitting over there in the corner, but we're going to go ahead and throw it over there and let you all give the crisis response update.
Good morning, Council. You can see the stats up there. I do have some exciting updates. We have 3 very high-profile conferences that our team has been asked to present at to share our best practices and just the success of our team. Those are an international conference in Oslo that was actually awarded a full scholarship for our officer, Tim Wagner, who runs that program, who leads that effort. He got really great feedback. That's through the Strong Cities Network. Additionally, we're presenting at the Co-Responder Conference in Spokane in June. And then we've also been invited to speak at the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals to discuss a case study for our targeted violence prevention program. We're still working on the audit recommendations and working with our data analysts to satisfy those requirements. And then we're also working with the National Policing Institute to kind of rework the evaluation that they will be doing. And we had a very exciting meeting with them yesterday. So I'll take any questions.
We remain fully staffed on the
We're
clinician
still
side.
fully staffed now. AMRT, we are still working to hire that second clinician.
All right, section 5 is on our cleanups. And so Emma, I see you over there. We'll throw it over to you.
Thanks. Hey y'all. So as you can see, we did a lot of abatements last month and we got a lot of people into pallets from those. I think we had 28 people in pallets last month and 17 of those were from the 225 and Dam Road area. So my staff, Bryce, worked really hard to get a lot of those folks out of camps before we had to go in and abate so that folks weren't moving from the camps just down the street. So Bryce has been working really hard on that, doing a great job. We finally found someone to take our position of our second abatement liaison, or our homeless program liaison. And they're gonna be starting, originally I had the 15th, but update on that, they're gonna be starting the 22nd. Just with some HR stuff going through, it's gonna be a week later. So we're really excited about that, having an additional person to help coordinate all the abatements will really make things run a lot smoother, and I think everyone will be happier and Bryce won't be run so ragged doing all that by himself. And we'll be having the 1-year review of the unauthorized camping ordinance on Monday at study session. So sure we'll have plenty of questions about that. And we'll be doing a pretty comprehensive review of what happened and have some recommendations at the end of that as well. And yesterday we had a end of winter celebration. It was such a long winter that our APAT team and the Mile High Comitas teams were working around the clock to shelter folks in the severe weather that we were having. So we invited them all over for a lunch and just a thank you for their hard work. And that included APD folks, some code folks, and Mile High Behavioral Health Care and Aurora Mental Health all came over, and we just kind of celebrated. And of course, it was rainy and gross yesterday and tornadoes, so an appropriate time to celebrate.
I have one thing, the PAR teams, and I guess Chief, this is for you in your office, but the PAR teams have come to me and said, listen, council member, how are we interpreting this 72-hour notice? They have 72 hours to leave. We're showing up and they're still there with their stuff everywhere and they're scrambling at the last second to get, our team would like direction and on how this is being interpreted. They would like to start ticketing these people. They have had 72 hours to gather what they want and be gone from the area by the time the abatement teams show up. Our PAR teams are showing up, you know, and sometimes there's pushback, sometimes there's not, but these people have had 72 hours to leave. So our PAR teams are looking for direction on interpretation of this 72 hours.
And we'll put together some, training, bulletin out to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I may, Madam Chair, I mean, they're understood. I mean, we've had some of the, I know the PAR officers have asked, Megan, there's some legal restrictions that we have to work through on that because of the way the ordinance was drafted. They're allowed to be criminal in nature. So I know that there are some updates going on that, but we'll work on that.
Well, yeah, if there's amendments that need to come forward, obviously we wanted to initially get the camping ban approved. Now we've had a whole year to work through this kink. If there's amendments that need to come forward, but our PAR teams are really looking for direction on this at this point.
Yeah, to that point, I would say for your presentation on Monday, not to add to it, and maybe this is pretty in there. But I think that not just reviewing what's happened and understanding, you know, the number of abatements month over month to show the progress made, but also to this conversation, what are ways that we can make it better? What have we learned over the past year?
Stronger.
That where are the gaps that we didn't anticipate that are there that we can correct moving forward?
So,
Go
so
ahead.
Jessica's nodding, so so
Yeah.
that's actually part of it,
Perfect.
yeah, we've had some of that request, and so you're gonna hear that as part of Monday.
Perfect.
There's
Perfect.
Yep.
some,
I'll wait and see Monday.
and there's a move to kind of increase our scope with Keesing, who does the abatements themselves. That's gonna be an additional ask of PAR, because we're gonna go from 3 days a week to 4 days a week, just to sort of, so, but we're, that's on it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does there exist a hesitancy within the department to enforce the camping ban based on public opinion? That we're criminalizing homelessness, when in fact we have an ordinance and a law. Are we holding back on that? Tom, I think you alluded to it in a conversation you had.
It's just something we have to be aware of and guard against, council member, when we're doing those things. I don't think it keeps us from doing our job, but if we can find other avenues that will help them out to do that instead of making an arrest, we're happy to do that. So
Making an
that's
arrest,
what
you say?
if there's other avenues we can do.
Yeah, certainly we want to promote
Right.
talent and services, which they continuously, in a lot of cases, reject, right? So.
I haven't been a part of that since January. I know they've been taking some more steps to do that. I know a few more people have been getting tickets when they refuse to leave. But like Mr. Schulte says, there are some avenues within the ordinance itself. We have to give them the option to leave before we can arrest them. And then if they refuse to leave at that point. That's for open space. If it's private property, it's completely different. It's a trespass issue.
I think Mark might have been squirming in his chair over here.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sergeant Sears, I'm with our team, District 2. I'm undercover today, so just bear with me.
You're not sure you are.
Yeah.
Good job.
To your question quite directly is that, yes, it's 100% a problem that we have. And I think that, I know that with homeless outreach, we have started developing a little bit better of a communication, and moving forward, we're going to be meeting regularly to try to establish better policies and procedures that we have. But we certainly have an ordinance that's in place right now of obstructing governmental operations, which is just every city employee that we have that's trying to enforce the ordinance that we have about no camping, that we could take action on if we needed to. And when we say arrest, let's be clear that we don't necessarily have to take them into custody. we can certainly issue them citations for them to go to court. Whether or not they show up is completely up to them, right? So there are different ways, and I appreciate all of you talking about, these are great numbers that we have, but there's definitely more ways that we can be more efficient and we could be quicker, and we could probably save the city a tremendous amount of money, especially with Keeson and his team and the amount of time that it takes to do it. So to answer the initial question you had, yes, that's absolutely 100% a burden that we have.
So I think that's exactly why I brought it up, because the PAR teams have overwhelmingly come to me and they are looking for direction from the chief's office on exactly how they're supposed to be handling different things.
Yeah, so Councilman, I think that what we will plan to do is get together with legal, get a complete rundown on where we're at. We're gonna enforce the law, but we wanna make sure we enforce the law according to what the law is and the case law. And once we get that briefing, we'll share it with you all as well. And then we'll put together our enforcement guidelines for our teams. Ultimately, we've talked about this. I like to get PAR out of that business so they can work on other quality of life and their crime issues. And as we staff up, I like to have a dedicated police homeless outreach team like we had in Houston and now they have in Austin. Because these folks move around, so they might leave they might move from Mark's parking area to 3 to wherever else. And then we put together a hot team, that's what they do with our city partners. We're gonna build better relationships with that population. And I think we've built trust over the years and it'll be much more effective. So that's gonna be our long-term goal. Short-term goal will be to get the legal update. If there's anything that we identify that we can do in city ordinance that needs to be changed and we can do it legally, we will present that to you. And we'll do that work here the next couple of weeks to get it back.
And I'll tell you, because of the year that we've been going on, there are some discussions that are going on with some council members on what we're doing with the camping ordinance. So there may be some stuff coming forward. Just nothing is solidified yet, but there has been some talk because again, one of the issues was, the ACLU and everything, when the camping ban came forward, it was, well, you're just doing this as an excuse to criminalize people experiencing homelessness, right? I think that's part of, part of the language of the ordinance is what hamstrings the police department is, well, do we arrest them? Do we? So, well, that's kind of what we're looking at is, with it's the language in the ordinance right now that's causing a lot of the.
And an arrest, to Mark's point, an arrest doesn't necessarily mean physically taking them to jail. But, when they show up and they've had 72 hours to leave, are they taking that? They want direction. That's the bottom line. Our PAR teams want direction.
Correct. And the ordinance currently states, and Sergeant Sears, correct me if I'm wrong, it says that we have to tell them you must leave now. And then if they haven't done anything, we have to first give them the opportunity when you show up after 72 hours to vacate. If they're the question is, and I think the direction they're asking for is, if they're slowly gathering their things, how long do they have to wait before they're refusing to leave? That's kind of the gray area, right?
Yeah, and some of them are taunting our cops.
I
And
know.
I want a zero tolerance policy on that. You've had 72 hours to vacate this area. If they're taunting our cops, and taking their sweet time, give them direction. Somebody give them direction.
We will get it done, Madam Chair. We just want to make sure that we got all the rules of engagement, legal rules of engagement. If there are holes that we need, that we can address through ordinance, we will get that. I'm not anti-homeless, but I don't think that it's a good public policy to let people live wherever they want. It's not good public policy. It's not good safety. It's not a good health policy.
Well, sure, and the majority of us agree with you, and that's why we passed this year. But now we need to really hone in on what our cops are to be doing. I don't want them out there just getting yelled at, by the homeless when we have this. You were supposed to be gone. So I think that's it. Oh, Jessica, you have to.
I was just gonna add, you'll see in the recommendations, we're building our own in-house outreach team, which will function differently than some of the ways that our nonprofits run outreach teams. And so part of that piece is having more touch points with them during those 72 hours to get the folks that are willing to accept services to move and get out of the camp before we come in to do the actual abatement. And so that's part of that, real push there too. So the people that are still there at the end of the 72 hours are not gonna accept services, and they're that kind of 5% of people we see that aren't accepting services and sort of moving along already. So then we can have better communication, you know, with PAR to say, listen, these are all the times we've made a touch point with this person. They have denied services, and so at this point, they need to move along, kind of a thing. So you'll see that Monday night too, as we talk a little bit more robustly about the outreach services ahead of when PD has to get there.
Because then.
We really want PD to just sort of be standing by if they're needed and not having to have as much of an action.
Yeah, and I just, Jessica, you know, I was involved in that email thread with Linda Meadows, the property manager over there on Parker 225, and I've been dealing with her for a year now. They've lost a lot of tenants, in that building. That's where the street racing is going on. Their windows were shot out. I mean, it's been a nightmare. And I think we need to be really careful responding to emails like this saying, well, the homeless, I know this group and they're very friendly. When we have this property manager telling us, listen, these people are harassing our tenants, harassing customers. So with the outreach team, that's fine if they know them and develop a relationship with them. When we have property managers or business owners telling us, hey, they're harassing our customers, I don't think the appropriate response is, well, they're very friendly. So just my 2 cents.
I would tend to agree with you.
Do we have anything else on this issue? Okay, I have something for miscellaneous matters for consideration. I've been watching this. I've been listening to a lot of cops. I talked to a lot of cops in other agencies. We have got to collaborate between the jail and our police department. These cops have got to get out of this jail faster. Have got to get out of this jail faster. When they bring somebody into the jail, I've now talked to Arapahoe County cops. I talked to Jefferson County. I've talked to different municipal cops. We seem to be one of the longest times from the time that one of our cops takes somebody to jail for them to get in and out, to the point that I have cops literally telling me, I will do everything I can not to take somebody to jail. In this city, you commit a crime, you're going to jail. So if that's how our cops feel about it, we have got to get some sort of collaboration to get our cops out of the jail. I don't know what it looks like when a cop pulls in, you know, takes the criminal in, alleged criminal in to the jail, what that can look like. I don't see the people in detention, you know, just kind of dragging their heels to get to the front. I don't see that being the issue. They're getting up there. So I don't know what the issue is, but there's got to be some communication here. Our cops have got to get back out on the street.
Can I speak on that a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah.
From what I understand in what information I have, some of the difference between when you go to Adam and Jeffco is the paperwork is completed before they get there. When they come to our jail, they complete the paperwork in the jail. So that's what some of the time is that the officers are doing their paperwork. We do have an appointment to meet with the PD, because I think where we need to start is like, you know, to look at what's happening on our side and then go from there, because we do have quite a few staff that is very knowledgeable with the other agencies. So we're working on it. But I think that, you know, to compare us to Adams and Jeffco, when you've already got the paperwork done, if they showed up at our door with their paperwork done, we would be faster, but we allow them in to complete their paperwork.
Situation of I think a lot of these other jails, and I mentioned this to you on this property tour with you. A lot of other jails, municipal jails, county jails, they are storing property on site. Whereas I'm having to watch our cops go through whatever property these people are coming in with. I know that at Arapahoe, they drive up, have their property in a bag, and they hand it to somebody, whoever's in their detention center. I mean, I'm watching our cops having to sort through what can be kept, what can't be kept, what can go to Arapahoe, what can, you know, so I think that we need, and I've said a million times, we have all of this space in the jail with the porcelain toilets and sinks. That easily could probably be some storage, I think, for property, but I think we need to figure out how to get property that they come in with to be stored on site in the jail. And look, I don't have the answers. I'm just bringing this up as a very clear problem that I'm hearing over and over and over. I've spent plenty of time at our jail now to watch this for myself. Used to say I've been doing stints in the jail, but
You've been observing the jail.
stints in the jail, but I've really been trying to like watch this. And our cops are there a really long time. And if anything is making them hesitant in this city to arrest people, it's how long they're held up at the jail. And that's, I can't speak to that, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to gather stats on the average time, but I'm going from, you know, when they say we're ready to turn over to when we take them.
Sure.
But because of deficiencies in our system, we're manually collecting that information. So I am working on that. And I realize that this has come up several times before. We're very committed to working with the police department to figure out if we could have some efficiencies.
Yes.
First of all, thanks for reading that up. I think the prisoner where you book it there, then when they get released, they don't have to come looking for us. They can leave. I think that's the best practice. The best piece, Madam Chair and committee members, is that we have now established, I think it's next week, our very first executive, we're gonna have quarterly, we are establishing quarterly public safety executive meetings, which I think is gonna be huge, that ongoing conversation and building those partnerships. And I think that's gonna help us get through this issue and any other issues in the future. So we're committed to that, and I think you'll see us working much more.
Including,
I think our first meeting is
detention.
next week, right?
Yeah, I think we have I don't know if it's official, but we have a committee.
It's next week.
So
But I'm talking about the executive level that we haven't had.
yeah.
So that's gonna be quarterly, and that's gonna help a lot with all these issues.
Well, I'm gonna keep going by. I mean, I'm gonna keep randomly showing up. And telling him stops, get back on the street. I mean, something's gotta change.
Well,
So-
marshals, we have either. I think one of the things that we should look at in the future is batting lines as well. So I think we should just look at all those perspective issues. It's not gonna be overnight, but the booking of the property is something that would be really, really helpful if we can get that sooner rather than later.
Well, I understand it's a little bit more complicated because if we take them to Arapahoe, they won't accept the larger, belongings. And then if they don't come back and pick them up, I think there's a lot we have to work through. You know, how can we dispose of that property if they don't claim it in a certain amount of time?
Maybe then it can be
So-
turned over to property. They do, they dispose of property correctly. There's an answer here. Everybody needs to start talking. These cops have got to get out of this jail. That's it.
What I just wanted to add is, well, first, thank you for your support. I know it's for the line level officer, and the Chiefs Advisory Committee actually has a process like efficiency or improvement committee. And Officer Judy Lutkin and Matt Campbell are really spearheading the jail issue and the efficiency processes there, and they're the ones who are gonna be a part of that. So I just wanted you to know that it's not just a conversation up here. We have the officers who are being impacted directly, working on it to find a solution. So thanks for the support.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lots of focus on the police department today, and of course, I want to leave out AFR and ask you guys how the Gaylord situation worked out with response and communication.
It's great. I mean, the team was actually there doing PT in the stairwells, so they were running the stairs. They've established a really strong relationship with the security team there and the management. And so just a couple of minutes before they were over there caring for the victims of that. And so I'm super proud of our folks. The technical rescue team was over there and just went right to work. They train for unique events like that all the time. That's really their wheelhouse. And so they just performed admirably. I'm really proud of them.
That's only Station 5, right?
Station
The technical
5 is the tech
rescue.
rescue. Now the truck companies that are closed, Truck 16, they train for some of that exceptional event calls. So they were there as well. They brought scenes very quickly, obviously, because they would be on the team. Thank you for asking.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? All right, the next meeting is June 8th at 9 a.m. in this room. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Actually, with all the grades, dude, it's great, actually, it's better to be here than have folks like, yeah, just figure it out.
You need to fly out. I know, not people are gonna be up on you.